This video, we have a special guest. Her name is Pooja. She's a YouTuber and also a software engineer currently working at Microsoft. Pooja, thank you very much for being on this show.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thanks for having me.
So Pooja, can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Puja Dutt, and I currently work at Microsoft as a mid-level software engineer. And I've been in the software engineering industry for about 3 years now. I also went the traditional route, and I went to college. So I got my BS in computer science.
Awesome. So my first question for you is your career journey. So could you tell us a bit more about your career journey, like everything up to this point? How did you get started in tech all the way to how did you become a mid-level software engineer?
Yeah. So I think I'll start back at college. So I went to UW-Madison, and at the time I actually hadn't decided what I wanted to major in. I was kind of thinking something towards like biomedical engineering or even something towards business. And then I realized that I don't like organic chemistry. I don't like chemistry in general. And so I decided to take an intro to computer science class because that was a requirement in the engineering school anyways. I really enjoyed it. So fast forward through the rest of my 3 years of school, I ended up majoring in computer science and then graduating in 2018. And then after that, I worked at a startup, and I actually worked remotely at that startup for a year, and I lived in Greece for 6 of those months. So that was a lot of fun. And then shortly after that, I joined Target as a software engineer, and I worked on teams like the gift card team, the red card team, and then also kind of managed orchestration of products within warehousing. And then after that, about 2 years and maybe a couple of months into that job, I switched over to Microsoft. So I actually just started working at Microsoft, I think like 2 or 3 months now. So it hasn't been that long, but I'm really enjoying it so far.
Nice. Very interesting. And I guess my one follow-up question is, how did you come across CS, or how did you come across computer science? Because you mentioned earlier that you were interested in, biomedical or healthcare, or even mentioned like business. Like, what draw your attention about computer science initially?
Yeah. So it might have been a subconscious thing. So both of my parents were software and hardware engineers. So in my mind, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do anything but that because I didn't want to do what my parents were doing. So when I tried those different classes, like I was saying, I took an intro to chemistry class, and I didn't really like it. Like, it was okay. It was interesting, but it wasn't something that I was very passionate about. And the intro to computer science class was just a prerequisite that you had to take if you were in the engineering school, or if you were in the business school, there was more of like a business oriented intro to computer science class as well. So I decided to just get that out of the way my freshman year. But when I took it, I realized that it's actually very interesting and a lot more creative. I think I had the perception that computer scientists like act a certain way, or they do certain things, like they're just sitting on their laptops and coding, and I have no idea what the code is, what it looks like, or what it means. But Intro to Computer Science kind of gave me more insight onto what it was, and it was a lot more creative. You can like create objects out of thin air. You could basically imagine anything that you want to and then make it work. And there's a lot of satisfaction as well, because you can run a program and get your required result. And if you don't get that, you can just keep iterating on that problem until you find a solution. So I found that a little bit more satisfying to see like immediate results. I don't know if that answered your question, but basically that's what I ended up doing to decide that this is why I want to pursue computer science. And then after that, for people who have gone through like their bachelor's degree in computer science, I took more classes such as artificial intelligence, data structures and algorithms, things like discrete math, and then an intro to algorithms class. And all of those classes were really interesting to me. So that's kind of why I continue to decide pursuing computer science.
Nice. Did you also attend any computer science classes in high school?
I didn't actually. Our high school did offer an intro to computer science class, and I was thinking about taking it. I had done a little bit of coding on the side because my friend basically forced me to. He was like, "You should know this. Like, it's really interesting. It's like the future." But other than that, no, I barely coded.
Gotcha. And then my other question is, you mentioned that you were currently working at Microsoft, but you also worked at Target in the past. What is it like to, like how do you compare those two companies? Because I never worked at at Target? Like, what is it? What are some difference between Target versus Microsoft?
Yeah. So they like, I guess the first thing is they use different technologies. And I know like it's very team dependent at both Microsoft and at Target. But in terms of language, framework, like libraries that are used, it's a little bit different. And I think that's specifically because Microsoft is a tech company. And so they create a lot of development products. So like, for example, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code is like highly used within within Microsoft, whereas Target probably has more freedom to pick different technologies based on their specific use case. So I did find the technologies to be different, but again, if you know one language and one framework, it's pretty easy to learn another language and another framework. Another difference that I found was that the scale of things were like very different. So with Target, even when we're just talking about number of employees, so Target has like 8,500 employees at the headquarters, and I think Microsoft has 180,000 employees. So even just scaling within your own team, or like thinking more broadly about everyone else that you're working with when it comes to business communication, when it comes to trying to figure out how to build something or how to scale something for your user base, like we would have to scale all these development tools for millions of people, maybe even billions of people around the world. Whereas with Target, their market is just in the US. So all the products they build only have like a certain amount of traffic that's coming to them, if that makes sense. So both in terms of scaling technology, but also scaling for like the amount of employees that work at a business, that was very different. So it felt more like a small, mid-sized company feel at Target, and it feels a lot bigger at Microsoft. So kind of like a small fish in a big pond.
Gotcha. What about the company culture? Do you see any difference in terms of company culture? Or maybe one is more focused on, maybe e-commerce or things like that, and the other one is focused on completely different?
Yeah, for sure. So I thought there would be like a huge difference in company culture just because, again, since Microsoft is more of a global company, there's a lot more diversity of thought just because, again, all our employees are spread out across the world. But I think they're a lot more common than one would think. So for example, I think they both had really good work-life balance. And I know, like you mentioned, Target is more of like focusing on e-commerce. And Microsoft, again, they dabble in a lot of different things. But culture-wise, again, they both have really good work-life balance. Their benefits are really good. Microsoft is like really well known for their benefits. Ironically, not as many people know about this, but Target has really good benefits as well. In terms of mental health and wellness, both Target and Microsoft offer like on-site facilities. So it really depends on if you go into the office now. I know some people are starting to go into the office, but they have like a gym on site. I know Microsoft in Redmond has like basketball courts and tennis courts, like it's an actual campus. Whereas Target is a lot smaller, but they also have a campus. So they have like bike trails, and they have like places where you can store your bikes and rent a bike or go play basketball, things like that. So I think the main idea is the value that the companies have on their employees is very similar. I think compensation is a completely different idea though. Target, I don't think compensates engineers as fairly as Microsoft does.
Nice. Got it. That's very interesting. And then last question to finish off this slide is, I also noticed that you're a founder of a property investment investment firm called Boulder Pointy. I'm sorry if I pronounce it right.
No worries.
Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. But it's based on LinkedIn. It says like it's related to like investing like townhomes, single family homes, condos. Like, could you tell us a bit more about what do you do at this position?
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds really fancy, but it basically just is an LLC to wrap around properties that I've bought. So I've bought 2 properties, and they're just they're basically investment properties. So I rent them both out right now to one family in Minnesota and one family in Atlanta. And my main purpose of that was to A, get someone else to pay my mortgage, and B, hopefully sell the houses later on when they appreciate. And so for legal reasons, if you were to ever buy a house, for example, and you rent it out to someone, and for some reason they sue you, let's say they like trip down the stairs and they fall, and then they sue you. Instead of them being able to sue you and take all your personal assets, if you wrap those houses under an LLC, whatever they sue you for can only be taken from whatever's under that LLC, if that makes sense. So you basically like save your butt
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
creating that LLC. So it's like basically just a fancy label, but it's just for legal purposes essentially.
Right, but like, I guess basically at that position, you mostly just go find properties, I guess, and then just try to, I guess, like rent them out, and then
Mhm.
later, like you mentioned, just be able to sell it to other people, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I guess like what could you tell us a bit more like what got you interested in this I guess like real estate kind of
Mhm.
sector, like I guess how did you go find, you know, properties, and what is it like to do stuff like this? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I first started getting into this like right after I graduated college. My parents are really big into investing, so they kind of taught me, you know, invest your money, set a certain aside into the market, and don't just like keep it in your savings because inflation will like depreciate that money. All of these different like terminology to try to get me to invest. So I kind of first started investing in the market, but then I realized that there's a kind of a huge opportunity in real estate just because with the market, it can be very volatile at times and it's completely dependent on the demand we have for certain companies. Whereas with real estate, like you're always going to need a place to live. Like I can't really foresee any time in the future where you won't really need to live in an actual house, like a physical property. So I figure that there was like a pretty good future for houses in general. And in general, if we look historically, houses appreciate a lot over time. So when I was in Greece, this was when I was first working remotely for that startup. I had a lot of time on my hands and I turned to YouTube. That's basically where I learned all my skills. I turned to YouTube. I watched, I think it was like Big Money or Money Pocket. They have a really good podcast and YouTube channel, and they talk about real estate investment. Graham Stephan also talks about real estate investment. So I just watched them a lot. I got really inspired by them, and I bought my first house in Minnesota when I came back. I lived there for a year, and then after watching more YouTube videos, I decided I think I want to rent it out and be a property manager. So it was a lot of fun, and there's not a lot of work that goes into it other than the research ahead of time to make sure that you're able to get a loan from a loan officer or a bank, make sure that you have a good real estate agent, make sure that you're able to negotiate closing costs, like all of that stuff up front takes some research. But after that, you just go on Zillow, find a renter, do a background check, and then collect money for a year. So it's a good investment, and it doesn't take a lot of time.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, the next question that I have is pros and cons for being a software engineer. So you know, you started software engineer. I think your first internship was like in May 2016,
Mhm.
and then your first full time I think was like in like 2018. So you've been working at software engineer for a while. Like, could you tell us a bit more about like what are some benefits for working as a software engineer, and what are some challenges for being a software engineer?
Yeah. So I would say some benefits are, and these might be more like untraditional benefits, but being able to work remotely, just having more flexibility in your day. So when coronavirus hit, I think it showed us that a lot of professions, like nurses and being a doctor, for example, a lot of stress was put on those professions because it was very physically and emotionally demanding. With software engineering, it depends on the way that you look at it, but I felt it went the other way. We were given a lot more flexibility because we were able to do our jobs remotely. And for me, being an introvert, I actually really enjoyed not having to interact with people every single day, not having to commute to the office an hour one way and an hour back. So for me, that increased my productivity and it made me enjoy my job a lot more. I think the cons of being a software engineer, relative to what I just said, is also the learning curve. So when you're new to the industry, there's already kind of a learning curve to understand like how to actually push productionized code out there, how to test your code, how the CI/CD process works, and just how to gather business requirements, things like that. And I think the learning curve gets worse when you are remote. So I think it can be difficult for new software engineers to learn as much as they can, unless they're motivated to like reach out to people and get instruction from people virtually. If you're experienced, I think it's a lot easier because you've kind of been around the block. You understand what's going on. Another pro I would say is the demand for you. So I don't know, Eric, if you get these a lot, but I get a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn reaching out all the time for job openings. And so it's kind of nice to know that your role is needed in the industry today, or your role is needed just in the market in general. So it's a nice safety blanket, right? So companies know that they have to cater to you and your needs because it's really difficult to find good software engineers out there. So that's really nice, being in demand. I think a con of that is that I can't remember which psychologist came up with this, but sometimes, ironically, having too many options is actually a detriment to you. So if you have a lot of recruiters reaching out, or you have a lot of opportunities and you're constantly interviewing, it can be very draining, and it no longer helps you to just continuously be looking out in the market, and it kind of takes away from you focusing on the job at hand. So that's another con. And then I'll say one last thing. A pro is the pay. I think pay is very competitive for software engineers right now, and especially with inflation happening, I think a lot of companies are stepping up to the plate and trying to almost like overcompensate software engineers so that they're not losing money when they're switching jobs right now. So I think that's a really cool perk. And it's a very challenging environment. It's fun. I really like the people that I typically work with. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I 100% agree on there. Yeah, I think definitely the pay and also the remote option is a really big benefit for being a software engineer. And like you mentioned, I think one of the con was, be able to go past that initial stage when working as a software engineer, like learning about, like you mentioned, pushing production code and learning about gathering business requirements and so on. I think that's something that could be different, can be difficult at hand for many junior developers for sure. So let's move on to the next question. I want to ask you about education, because you mentioned that you went to university for bachelor degree of computer science, and then you're also currently pursuing Master of Science in Computer Software Engineering. So I wanted to learn more about why you made this decision to pursue further education, and how did you manage time between work and also schooling?
Yeah. So just a little premise. I never really planned on doing my master's in software engineering. It kind of just happened because of the pandemic, actually. So I had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I figured it wouldn't hurt to get a software engineering master's degree, just because I thought that I would learn a lot from it and it would help my career. And then also because I had that extra time on my hands, I could tackle a degree virtually and not have to worry about like the physical requirements of attending class on campus. So there's like a couple of other reasons, but also like the fact that my company was going to pay for my education, that kind of solidified that I would just try to pursue a master's degree. And then you asked like how do I manage like doing both work and school? So right now it's kind of like a mindset thing. So for me, I've decided that I won't ever stress out about school again. I've started my career, and that's kind of what I want to focus on. So for me, it was more of a side thing, like a side project. So I only take one class a semester, which is very manageable. Right now, for example, I only have class on Tuesdays, sometimes Thursdays, but mostly just Tuesdays. And it's for 2.5 hours. So it's a long class, but it basically covers the entire week. It's designed for people who are working. So I work my normal 40 hours a week. And then I have class in the evenings on Tuesdays, and I attend. There's other people in my class who also just get off of work around that time and attend class. And then the teacher also holds office hours on weekends, and then in the evenings on weekdays. So it's very accommodating for a person who is in the industry working already, which is really helpful and beneficial. So that's kind of how I manage it. I don't have to worry about going to class in the middle of the day or anything. And then the time commitment outside of just going to class, I would say for this class is only like 2 or 3 hours a week. So it's not that bad. My previous class was a lot more involved, I would say. We had a lot more software engineering projects that we had to create. And I would say I put maybe 6 to 8 hours a week other than class time into my work, which again isn't terrible, because at that time I wasn't creating YouTube videos or managing an Instagram account. So we'll see. once I start taking harder classes, how it goes with everything else. But yeah, so far it's not bad. I don't know if you had this experience, but like I thought school was a lot harder than work and side projects, because I still think it's a mindset. Like if you're anxious or
Yeah.
fearing for like, am I going to get a job or am I going to get a degree, versus like, oh, this is just something I feel like doing or I want to do, it takes the pressure off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like definitely yeah, now I look back, I kind of feel like, if it's not for work, then the priority might not be as high as, like, hey, initially I want to get education because I need to get into this industry or so on. So my next question is, I want to talk about your YouTube channel a bit more. Speaking of YouTube, could you tell us a bit more about your YouTube channel? What is it about and all that kind of things?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is more tech lifestyle, and travel. I'm still figuring out my niche, but I would say based on the YouTube videos I've already posted, it's a lot of career advice specifically for software engineers. So I do tend to target people who are either just out of high school, people who are new to the industry in general. So they don't have to be just out of high school. Maybe they've graduated with a bachelor's degree, maybe they're self-taught engineer, maybe they're in boot camp, or they're just thinking about becoming a software engineer. So entry into the industry is kind of the people that I target. And I talk about different concepts like how to negotiate your pay, how to interview, or how to prep for those like leak code interviews. Also what it's like to be a software engineer, what do software engineers even do, what kind of concepts do they have to know to be successful, things like that. And hopefully I'll have some more videos that are more tech oriented. Actually, one of my videos coming up, just a quick plug, is building a web application. So we'll see. I'm experimenting to see what gets more traction, but that's the gist of kind of what I do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Super looking forward to that. And one of the follow-up questions that I have is, where do you get ideas for your videos? What kind of tools do you use to research those ideas?
Yeah, so I think maybe I had talked about this with you as well, but there's one thing I do with search engine optimization. So for example, when you search in Google or when you search in YouTube, I think YouTube is the second or third largest search engine after Google. Basically, if you search in incognito mode and you type a few keywords, you'll start to see what people most search. So like what's most relevant today. So you can kind of cater your videos around that. So for example, if I were to search, what do software? And then maybe I'll see some options that say, what do software engineers eat? Or what do software engineers do on a day-to-day basis? So then I know, okay, a lot of people are searching for what do software engineers eat and what do they do on a day-to-day basis? So I might make a video around that. The second thing I do is I follow people that inspire me and I get ideas from them and I put my own twist on it. So like your channel, for example, Eric, I've watched like quite a few of your videos and I really like it. And your channel actually got me thinking about maybe I should start making more technical videos, because I think a lot of people like more practical tips versus just kind of those soft skills. And then I'll also watch other people like Clement, who does more of those soft skills. He doesn't really do like, he's done a few leak code problems, but he's not, I wouldn't say he's like very super technical in his channel. He's more career lifestyle as well, tech lifestyle. Like I watch Life of Luba, Bukola, all these different YouTubers, basically Tiff with Tech or Tiff in Tech, something like that. Yeah, so she does more like technical videos as well. She like builds things. I think the other day she built an NFT, which was super cool video to watch. So yeah, that's kind of where I get my inspiration.
And like, how do you I guess produce the video? I guess that's my question.
Yeah. So I can give you like a quick start to finish on what I do. So first I do kind of what I was saying, where I like go search for ideas. Like I watch other people's YouTube videos, and this can be like an async process. It's not like I just decide one day, okay, today I'll watch a bunch of YouTube videos. Like I just watch YouTube videos all week. And then I specifically search for terms to see what people are looking for. Once I figure out my idea, depending on the type of video. So if it's a very technical video where I want to talk about very specific concepts, I'll write a script. If it's just more of a lifestyle or career advice video, I'll write bullet points. And then I'll just impromptu talk about it, which I actually like those videos more because my thoughts flow a little bit better. But recently I've been writing more scripts. So what I'll do is I'll write a full script. I'll type a full script, and then there's a teleprompter teleprompter app on that you can download for, I think, Android and iOS. I don't know for sure if you can download it for Android. But yeah, so I have an iPhone and I use a teleprompter app. I just upload my script, and my last 2 videos that I posted actually use the teleprompter app. So I just read from the script and I try to act as natural as possible for some of those videos. And then I use CapCut, which is a video editing tool. It's on my phone. For my equipment, I actually bought this microphone recently. I was going to use it, but I decided not to. I will eventually. And I have a couple of tripods, a laptop. Sometimes I'll use my laptop to film, but I mostly use my phone, which is a iPhone 12 Pro Max. And then I also have like a ring light. And I usually use natural light. Like right now, I'm just using the light that's coming out of the window. And then I edit using CapCut, add all the metadata in YouTube the day that I typically post it. So usually Friday morning or something. That's kind of my whole process. It's a very long process. I'm sure you know. It's a lot
I do know.
harder.
Definitely, it seems like definitely you invest a lot more than my videos. Yeah, because I usually don't show my face, and of course people watching this probably know as well. So I usually don't focus too much about that, and usually I don't have a teleprompter because when I do things like this, I'll just like say it off my head. So you're definitely going strong on this. I definitely believe that your channel is going to succeed in the future. Yeah.
Thank you.
My other question is, during this like making videos, like I guess what are some hardest moments in so far in your creator's career so far?
Yeah.
Like what are some challenges that you face maybe that maybe you can talk about as well?
For sure. There's a lot. I think right now, because I'm a new creator, so like I guess your subscribers won't know this, but I just started 3 months ago on my YouTube journey. Yeah. So I'm still fairly new to it. I haven't even hit like the 1,000 sub mark yet. But I think like some of the biggest challenges for me are first like creating a video. I didn't realize how much work it takes to actually create a meaningful video. And right now it's something like 500 hours of footage is uploaded every few minutes. Maybe it's 500 minutes. That's a huge difference. But a lot of content is basically uploaded every few minutes on YouTube. So there's a lot of competition right now. So in order for you to do well, not only do you have to like rank well in search, optimize for ranking well in search by using specific keywords and actually like posting videos that people are looking for, but your content has to be pretty high quality as well, which that's really difficult to compete with other big YouTubers on because they've been doing it for a while, and plus this is probably their full-time job now. So instead of doing this after work, they're probably spending most of their day filming using really expensive equipment. They probably have a full team that does the editing, writing of the scripts, all of that stuff. So you have to like compete with that. So once you've like kind of gotten into the mindset of, okay, no matter what happens, if I fail or if I do well, it's okay. Like this has to be just a fun journey. Then you can kind of get over that hoop. So that's like challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, I think, is being consistent. So kind of like I said, it takes a lot of effort to actually make these YouTube videos. So just making sure that you're still uploading every once in a while helps YouTube like push your videos out, but it also helps your current subscribers stay subscribed to your channel, because if you post like once or twice and then wait 5 months to post again, it's more likely that they won't be engaged with your content, which means that YouTube won't push your content out. So that's challenge number 2. And then I think the third challenge would probably be, again, there's a lot of them, so I'm trying to pick like which one. It would probably be comparison. So I like this quote: comparison is the thief of joy. So basically you should only compare yourself to yourself. I watch a lot of other tech YouTubers, and sometimes it's discouraging. Like it can be very inspiring, but it's also discouraging sometimes because their production quality is so good, and then you feel like you have to try to reach that production quality. So if you kind of, again, get into the mindset where you don't have to necessarily do exactly what other people are doing, I think it's okay, because eventually you'll get to the point where your videos are very high quality. It'll just take a lot of time. Like there's a progression until it gets to that point. So Yeah, I think those would be the three hardest challenges that I foresee with YouTubing.
Yeah, definitely. I can super relate to that because I have experienced that before. I have a lot of, other channels, YouTubers that's similar to what I'm doing. And always, maybe you're doing a video that's similar topic, and you want to always do better. I think that's definitely, a challenge that I can definitely relate to for sure.
Mhm.
Cool. So that's it for all my questions. Pooja, thank you very much for being on the show. Do you have any final words to the audience who are currently watching this part?
For sure. And just wanted to quick say thanks, Eric, for having me as well. Some final parting words is if you're in a position where you're like struggling to get a job as a software engineer, or you're struggling to like conceptualize those first few classes that you take when you're first learning computer science, you can do it. I know you can. I've definitely been there. I've been in a position where I don't know what's going on. I don't understand computer science, and it just takes that like great determination and ability to like ask questions and collaborate with people to eventually get over that hump. So I guess I'm just giving good vibes to your audience. If they're in a place where they're struggling at all in their computer science or software engineering journey, I believe in you.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much.